we're closing the second chapter of Bava Metzia. That's the chapter that really deals with lost property. And we'll see as we get right to the end of the chapter, and we'll deal with this in the next class, we'll see that we really get into questions of values. But those questions of values begin in the two Mishnayot, which we're going to look at today, which start off in a very basic way with definitions of lost property, but then go on. So let's have a look at the Mishnah and let's see how the subject matter changes. Ezahi Aveda, what is lost property? We seem to be coming back to the subject matter right at the beginning of the chapter. And we've already discussed how it's going to be announced, how long it's going to be announced for, how the claimant's going to be assessed. So we've gone through the whole of the time frame of the loss process, and we seem to be going back to the beginning. Maybe this chapter is structured like an arc, perhaps. So the Mishnah begins, Ezahi Avida, what is lost property? So someone found a donkey or a cow grazing on the path. Ein zo avida. It's not lost property. So the Gemara says, look, it's normal for animals sometimes to go out on the path grazing. Just because you see an animal grazing doesn't mean it's lost. But if you see a donkey with its trappings, its stuff, its saddle turned over, in other words, it's as if something's gone. It's like it's run away. Something's gone wrong with it. Hararat sarbein hakramim, or a cow running in the vineyards. We don't let cows run in the vineyards. The cow might get injured, and the vineyard might get injured. It's not normal. Harei zo avida. This is lost property. At this point, you can step in. In fact, you have to step in. And the Mishnah continues. So now we now we sort of get into questions of values. He returned it and it escaped. He returned it and it escaped. Even 4 or 5 times. Hayav, he's still obligated. You see this cow running around the vineyard. You return it to its owner, it escapes. You return it to its owner. It's done this 5 times. You're still obligated to return it because the verse says, we learned the verse, Hashev Teshivim. Hashev Teshivim is a plural of I think it's the infinitive absolute. It's a verb form that denotes emphasis. You must, it's usually translated with the word surely. You will surely return them. You have to return them. It's doubling. Hashev Teshivim. You can hear the doubling in the Hebrew. Hashev Teshivim. You shall return, effectively, is really what it's saying. You have to return it even 4 or 5 times. Hayabatel min seller. Let's say he lost a seller. This seems to refer to someone who's given up his work to go and return this ass, this donkey or this cow. He's given up work and he's actually lost out on a seller's earnings. Lo yumar lo tenli seller. He can't say to the owner, give me a seller. Eila noten lo schar kapfuel. Rather, the owner only needs to pay him the wages of a laborer. In other words, normal size wages. If he's an expert, he can't charge out at expert rates. Im yesham bet din. If there's a court of law there, that he can go and discuss with him. This is laten. He'll basically debate the conditions with him in front of the bet din. Im ein sham lifnei mi yatneh. If there's no court of law, before whom can he appear? And the Mishnah concludes shel or kodem. His work comes first. So in other words, if you're an expert and you're working at $100 an hour, You don't necessarily have to give up your $100 an hour in order to run out and find a cow that is running down the road. So your own interests have to come first. And we'll return to that in the last Mishnah of the chapter. But your interests come first. Let's just go through more of these examples. Metzia barefet, he found it in a stable. Now, the presumption is that the stable is unlocked. Obviously, if the stable were locked, then the animal is clearly not lost. But he's found it in a stable. The stable seems to be unlocked. He's not obliged to take care of it. But if he found it in the public domain, he's obliged to take care of it. If he finds this animal walking down the street, it's lost. If he was in a cemetery, now we're going to return to the question of values. This cow's wandering around in a cemetery. Al itamelo, he shouldn't contract uncleanness because of it. So if he's a kohen, he can't get unclean. It's a big problem for a kohen to get unclean. Doesn't have to get unclean to rescue some lost cow. Im amar lo aviv hitameh, if his father said to him, go and get unclean, or shamar lo al tachzir, or if his father said to him, oh yeah, don't return the lost object. In other words, if your father says to you something that is contrary to the halacha, harei lo yishmalo, he should not listen to him. So we respect our father, but if our father tells us to do something wrong, at that point we don't listen to him. We don't listen to him. Parak v'ta'an. He unloaded and reloaded. Afilu arba chamisha pa'amim chayav. He's still obligated. Shene'emar. Now this, we're going to quote a verse now. We haven't looked at this verse yet. So let's just break away from the Mishnah for a second. Look at this verse. It's in Mishpatim. So it's in the part of Exodus that we've been deriving all of our other regulations on damages from. And it says, when you see the ass of someone who hates you, you see this ass, rovet tachat masa'o. It's lying, it's crouching, it's overburdened under its burden. V'chadalta me'azov lo, and you don't release it. Azov ta'azov imo, you shall surely release with him. Again, the doubled verb, azov ta'azov, you shall surely release. Imo, with him. You shall surely release with him. We don't know who he is, by the way. The verse just says imo, with him. And we'll see that the Mishnah will explore that little ambiguity a bit, just as it focuses on the double verb, azov ta'azov, you shall surely release. You have to do this stuff. So let's go back to the Mishnah. Parak v'ta'an afilu arba'a v'chamisha pamim. So he unloaded and reloaded, even 4 or 5 times. Chayav, he's still obligated. Shenemar, as the verse says, we saw the verse, azov ta'azov, uses the verb twice. You've got to keep going. Lach v'yashavlo, if he went and sat down, this must refer to the owner. By implication, it refers to the owner. The owner went and sat down. Amarlo, he said to him, Ho'il ve'alecha mitzvah im ratzita lifrok prok. The owner went and said to him, oh yeah, you have a mitzvah, you have a command. So if you want to unload. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to let you do my work because it's a mitzvah. The verse says, azov to azov, you've got to unload. And I'm going to take advantage of that and I'll have a little rest. Thank you very much. Patur. He's exempt. He doesn't have to do the owner's work. Shen Emar, because the verse says, Imo. It says, with him. With him refers to with the owner. According to the Mishnah, the text is unclear, but the Mishnah says that means with the owner. You work with the owner. You don't work instead of the owner. Usually, let's keep going. If the owner is old or sick, he's obliged. So generally, we work with the owner, but if the owner is old or sick, okay, at that point we work without the owner. The old and the sick deserve some respect and some consideration. Mitzvah mina Torah lishrok. It's a command from the Torah to unload. Aval lo liton, but not to load up. Rabbi Shimon omer afliton. Rabbi Shimon says to reload as well. And then Rabbi Yossi HaGalili comes in. Rabbi Yossi HaGalili omer, haya alav yater mimasuo. Rabbi Yossi HaGalili says, if the beast was carrying more than its proper load, eino zakuk lo, he's not obliged. He's not required. Shenemar tachat masao. The verse says under its load. Masui shehu yachol amod bo. That means a load which he's able to endure. So we do have an obligation to help a beast of burden, but it seems as though there are limitations as well. And then when we close the chapter, which we'll do in the next session, we'll see that the Mishnah enlarges really on what kind of limitations there are and what value judgments we make. We've already made one value judgment in the sense that generally the owner has to help. But look, if the owner is old or sick, we respect that and we help we assist without the owner's help. So we've already seen the beginning of those value judgments, and we'll see more in the close of the chapter.